Welcome, welcome, welcome. Super excited to have this coffee conversation with you guys today. Let me know in the chat where you're watching from. Let me know what coffee you're drinking. I'm finishing up my iced coffee, and I am just going to make sure all the tech things are happening as they should. Let me know if you can see and hear me okay. Your support is always helpful. And I'm just going to make sure I have up my YouTube screen so I can see all of your comments. Let me find that. I'm excited about today's conversation. We're going to be talking about spirit teams, clairvoyance, and Reiki. And like what a perfect conversation in my mind. I love having this conversation. I was recently at a garden event. We were pickling beans and we were able to have some really deep conversations. And I just love them. I love real conversations. I went on a family vacation and felt like I was like kind of biting my tongue, like who can relate, right? And then when I get with a group of people that have the same spiritual background or understanding or different backgrounds and understandings, but they're willing to have a deeper conversation, I look forward to it so much. So thank you so much for taking the time out of your morning to join us, to have this coffee conversation. Our coffee conversations are all about deeper conversations. And you get me today, Christine Renee. Izzy is preparing for some big travel and we'll be doing lives together here shortly. So I'm going to be doing this coffee conversations on my own today. And so we're talking about Reiki, spirit teams, and clairvoyance. Super excited for this topic. And welcome, welcome, welcome. Super glad you guys are here and enjoying your cup of yumminess. So feel free to use that chat box. Let me know if you have any questions. I'm going to enjoy my drink as well. Still waiting for that coffee to hit a little bit. So I would love to know from your experience, have you had spirit guides come into a Reiki session? Let's just start there. Because oftentimes when we have this knowingness, this sense of there's something going on in this room more beyond me. And that is your spirit guides showing up to support you in your Reiki session. And I love this experience. And I've had this experience often and a lot. And it makes me feel like I'm not alone. And I think this is why I love having the conversations about spirit guides, is because when you are supporting someone in Reiki in their session and you can tell, oh, it's not just me here. This isn't a solo act. I've got ancestors or power animals or their guides or whoever it is, and they're all here to support me and the client in this healing process. And I love that so much. So that's kind of when, I guess I should give you guys a little bit of background of how things started for me. And then I would love to know how things started for you, because I really believe that if you are a Reiki practitioner and you are doing your Reiki self-care practice, if you are really stepping into letting your intuition lead, which may be a little different than traditional, quote unquote, traditional Reiki practices, where you're letting your hands be guided and you're opening up to, all right, I'm willing and able to receive support to support my client, things start happening, right? And so I want to know where you are in that process. If you felt that before, if this is a new thing, or if it's been happening for a really long time. Because everyone is unique, and it doesn't matter if you've been doing this for 20 years and you're like, yeah, I have that support, but I really want to take it to the next level and have conversations with them, then like we can take that conversation there, right? So for me personally, I was born and raised with a Reiki practitioner in my house. I was really blessed in that, even though he was only practicing for a few years, but he planted those seeds during a time in life when I was already fairly quote unquote abnormal. I was very much your spiritual enthusiast child. Like I wanted to go to church all the time because I could feel the energy of the space. I could talk to the statues in the Catholic Church. I was always just intrigued. And so as I became a young adult, I was told that, oh, well, it's because you're an indigo child, right? So recognizing that term of going, well, what is an indigo child? What does that mean? And then really starting to identify with that. Kind of was like part of my spiritual journey in the process, because it helped me know that I wasn't alone. That, yeah, I had, I went to a public school and no one understood me. And the only time people that I could find little pockets was inside the Catholic Church, because it was the only access I had to a spiritual community. And luckily with that, they were very open to mysticism, so if I was, chilling out in church and talking to Mary, no one had a problem with that, right? So luckily I was not outcast in my religion. I know other people have a lot of stories around their religious upbringings and how it actually hindered their healing work and their process. But I was really fortunate. To not have my religion hold me back in my spirituality. It was actually a platform where I could do my spiritual work. And at the same time, as a young adult, I was like, and I can't get on board with the stance of the Catholic Church. And so I moved away from it, but it gave me a really healthy foundation to know that there was saints and there was Jesus and Mary and archangels and all of these entities that were here, that were available to support me in my healing journey. And so that didn't really ever end. Like that was a thing that I took from the Catholic Church, even though I wasn't practicing Catholicism anymore, right? And so when I started doing my Reiki work and got my shamanic practitioner training, it was very much oh, of course, I've known who my power animal was, or, oh, I know that guy, I recognize him. I didn't know how to have the dialogue, but I had a starting point, right? And so I love that next piece of like the shamanic training was how to have the conversations. It was how to meet with them specifically with purpose and intention and have a conversation or have an experience. And so I absolutely love adding the shamanic element to the Reiki practice, because it allows that clairvoyance to go from images and messages and just little blips of things into let's open the floodgates, but let's also give it a channel. Like it gives it structure so that it has to come through the intention of what your journey is, what the session is for. And so everything that shows up has to come in that container. So it's not just these random things that are flying at you. And so that was really a blessing, because oftentimes I hear this again and again and again from Reiki practitioners who already are clairvoyant, that they'll see images, they'll get little pieces, but they're not really sure what they mean or how to piece them together. And it just becomes confusing in a Google search, right? Like, what does a red rose mean? And that's good to some point, but then it's like, let's individualize it. Let's make this more profound. Let's bring this deeper and go, why did the red rose show up then? Or whatever it is. Or take the dream or the vision and bring it to God and be like, all right, you explain it. Why did you show me this? And that can be really profound and helpful and transformative to your spiritual practice, not only for yourself, but for your clients, because you're able to give them more depth, right? So like oftentimes when we are starting to awaken, we're just getting the tip of the iceberg of the potential of what our spiritual gifts will offer, right? So it's super fascinating and enjoyable, and I love it. Kind of just start opening this door. And it comes with that, okay, here is the structure that we're looking for. Like, when we start to develop relationships with our guides and we don't have the shamanic practice training that's there, here's a couple things that you can do today, like anytime, is one, set the intention that you desire relationship, right? So that's always step one. Like you'd be like, all right, I know you're here with me now. I want to feel your presence. I want to be in a state of gratitude. Like I am feeling the gratitude for knowing the knowingness of you being here now. Okay. And show me signs, talk to me, and then step into meditation and just be quiet like that. And that can be hard. Like instead of it be prayerful, where there's like a lot of one-way conversation, and versus meditation, where it's just empty your mind completely, don't engage. If there's a space in between where you get to go into the space of, I'm listening. I am open and available and listening for your guidance, for your support, for you to reveal yourself to me, however that looks. And, I find this really one story that comes to mind is, if you guys know Abraham Hicks's story, I'm trying to remember her real name and it's eluding me in the moment, but basically here's this woman who has no attachment to finding answers, and her husband is all about wanting to find the answers, and he's going on the spiritual journey and she's just available. And so they learn how to meditate together. And so in meditation, they dismiss and they dismiss and they dismiss and they dismiss and they dismiss, because that's meditation. Don't let your mind be full of things. But there was guides that were trying to speak to her. Abraham, quote unquote, Abraham was trying to communicate with her. And she was available to receive, but she was in meditation mode, was dismiss, ignore, just to be silent, right? That's kind of the same with traditional Reiki, is like push all of that out versus, okay, I think it was, she started, right? Like there was some piece of it where it was a stepping point where, someone is clearly trying to communicate. So it was like, I think her head was moving and her nose was like the pencil, and they were writing, like giving her messages through her body, because her brain was so turned off because she was in meditation mode, right? And so there's this point of going, what if I just sit in silence and be open to receive messages? Can I just stay here and listen without any expectations, right? So it's coming into this place of going, I'm open and available, and my intention is to receive messages, to listen, to feel. And so depending on our spiritual gifts, we've had other podcasts and other lives and all the things on what clairvoyance is and how to kind of open up to it. But this is that part of the process where we're feeling in and being open with the intention to communicate with our loving guide, specifically, not anyone else, our loving guide. That's what we want. We don't want anybody else. We want our loving guides. And so you're sitting in this quiet space. Perhaps we're doing gasho, any other meditation techniques work, but you're putting that intention that I'm open to receive. And in that receiving, it can come through as visuals. It can come through as messages. It can come through feeling their presence around you. And that's the first step, is having this intention, open to receive, feeling it, seeing it, feeling it, hearing it, however your spiritual gifts are open at the moment. And then, and gratitude. Because when we give gratitude, they're like, oh, they are paying attention. I'm going to offer this more because it'll come back. Like that gratitude piece is affirming the process, and they love it, right? They're so used to being ignored or just giving little tiny hints and nudges and like intuition hits. And then we forget the gratitude part. And so they're like, she's not paying attention. And so we have to ask, and we have to, and then we receive, and then we give gratitude. And then that gives them the goal, oh, she's paying attention now. Let's give her more. Let's give them more. And so that's the starting point. So anyone today can step into that. Anyone today can step into, I'm open and ready to receive messages from my loving guides. Now, the reason why I keep hitting in on that point, on you want your loving guides, because you don't want to open just to anyone. You don't want to open to the, if you have had persons in your past who have passed away that didn't love you and hold you in light and respect you, you don't want them showing up. You don't want negative entities showing up. You don't want ghosts that are hanging out in your local cemetery showing up. Like, you don't want just anyone showing up. So you have to be specific, right? And so when you step into this work, it's really important to hold what your intention is, because that is your free will. Your free will is say, I'm open and available to this experience. And so if you are getting anything else other than that, there's something within you energetically that's open to that experience. So we need to really watch what our language is, state it clear, state it out loud, so that you're really telling your guides, like, this is what I'm open and available for. You're not hyper focusing on, I'm not available for this, and I'm not available for that, and I'm not available for that, because you're kind of just perking up their ears in a way. So you just want to be like, I am sitting here in quiet, open meditation to be able to receive messages and guidance from my loving spirit guides, my loving spirit team, my guardian angel. You want to talk to them like nobody else. Like, let's leave that for another day. Because once we have that relationship with our spirit guides, with our guardian angel, with our loving protectors, then when we come into session with our clients and other things, then we have a spirit team, right? So that's really what we kind of develop during our Shamanic Reiki practitioner training, is we come into this space of, all right, I'm learning how to connect with my guides in a super safe and gentle way, so that I can start having open two-way conversation, direct revelation, direct experiences with my guides for specific answers that I've set my intention for. And once that has happened, so we spend 2-3 months doing that piece of the program. It's a 6-month-long program. Then we can start offering these journeys and experiences for our clients, because we have the structure in place. So I think that's the really beautiful thing when you come into the Shamanic Reiki practitioner training. We give you the step-by-step process and hold space for you and really help give you the guidance of where next to go. But that doesn't mean that you can't start today just by setting attention and being in gratitude. So know that that is absolutely in the realm of possibility. And if you are struggling, that's why we have this beautiful structure and training and to have that. Because once you're there, like, I love the shift in my practice once I was learning the shamanic work, because then I would have specific guides show up in the session, and I knew exactly why they were there, because I've had a relationship with them. I've built conversations with them, so that, like, for example, if Mouse shows up for my session, power animal, spirit, universal spirit healer animal, Mouse shows up in my session, I'm like, okay, I know what we're doing. Why? Because when he shows up consistently, again and again and again, when Mouse shows up, I know that he is there to do detailed, small healing work. Like, he's the one who wants to get in and eat away at tumors. He's the one who wants to come and clear skin conditions. He's the one who wants to nibble away and gently wipe over anything that is needs healing in the physical body. That's usually when he shows up. Versus, let's say, spirit healer animal Eagle, who, when she shows up, she's ready to rip things apart. She's like, and we're ripping this out, we're ripping that cord off, and she's going to do soul retrieval, and she's going to go put those pieces back where they belong. So, there's different energies. And notice that, like this example, we have the divine masculine and the divine feminine. even though I use their pronouns backwards. Notice how I did that. Because they show up very typically, oftentimes guides, whether they come in the human form or an animal, they might not have a very heavy gender role. And when they do, it's paired like this, that we have this, let's rip it apart. And then we have this more gentle energy that wants to kind of knit things back together, right? So you have Archangel Michael and you have Archangel Raphael, right? They're contrast, but they work so well, beautifully together. Michael, the protector, ready with the sword, ready to defend and cut things up. And then you have Archangel Raphael with her golden thread, who's sewing things back together, who's working in the soul fabric, who's gently helping you repair and restore and bring homeostasis back into your body, right? And so when these guides start showing up, oftentimes you will recognize who they are if you are consistently journeying, if you're consistently working on your development with your guides, then when they show up, you're like, oh, I know why you're here. That's great. Thank you for coming. Thank you for your assistance. Let's see where we can take the session. And so oftentimes when I have specific guys show up, I know exactly what we need to be working on because they wouldn't be here otherwise, right? Versus I start a session and I'm like, oh, I don't know who you are. Who are you? And then I can find out, oh, you're here because you're my client's guide. Because in my stating of intention of my session, I call into something similar to this, if not the full on 4 directions. I'll say something to the effect of, I call upon our spirit guides, our spirit guides, our guardian angels, our power animals, our love and light entities that wish to join with us today for the health and healing of my client. May they have a perfect healing of the body, mind, and spirit if it's for their highest good and the highest good of all. And if any of us have a release, may it go to Mother Gaia for her reuse and recycling. So in my original intention of the session, I am stating, if you're here for me or if you're here for my client, for their loving benefit, essentially, be here now, right? So I'm calling forth what I desire, not calling for what I don't want. I'm calling for what I do want. And in that way, my guides are showing up. Their guides are showing up. And oftentimes I'll have their guides show up and I won't recognize them because they're not on my spirit team. And then I can ask them, okay, so who are you? How can you help assist this session? So it could be their loving ancestor or their mother who passed recently or who still has a message for them, or their guardian angel or whoever it may be. And sometimes they're coming to specifically help heal their body. They want to participate. And sometimes it's they're here for a message or to just give loving support. And that's fantastic. And so at the end of the session, I go, you had some guides with us today. They were really lovely and they just wanted to be here and support you. I've had a client come in who was in the process of grieving. She had just lost a friend a few days before, and they showed up. And so then I'm having this, because of the clairvoyant development through the shamanic Reiki practitioner training, through the process of understanding how to communicate. Then when someone shows up and I ask, who are you? How are you here to help? They're like, oh, I'm her friend who just died. I have this message. Great. I can write it down and relay it to them at the end of the session. But I did have this happen to me once where they showed up and they were like, but I want to learn how to do what you're doing. I said, what is this? Is this Reiki? And so I'm explaining what Reiki is to them. And I actually taught the spirit who showed up as recently deceased to learn how to do Reiki and to help me in the Reiki session. And at the end of the session, the client was like, I just felt like I felt like his presence was here. I go, that's because he was. And I felt like he was really working on my heart and my throat and my head. And I just felt his loving presence. I'm like, yeah, that's because he was. And here was his message to you. And then she's in the process of her grieving. So she's healing more tremendously, knowing that person, that spirit is still accessible. right? And so these types of sessions happen all the time when you're able to open to that clairvoyance level so that you can see and then you can hear and have these conversations. So that's why even when I'm doing energy clearings, oftentimes, yes, I'm doing Reiki to all of the walls and the floor and the ceiling and the artwork and the plants and all of the things that are in the house. I'm also open and available if there's spirits that are stuck in the house, or are attached to objects. I can then go into a meditative space to have conversation with them, offer them Reiki, because that's usually what they need. They need healing, and then help them cross over. And so these are some of the things that are connected into our shamanic Reiki practitioner training. So I am curious, how is this resonating to our listeners? If you've had experience, I'd love to hear about it. Know that we have our Facebook group, the Reiki Cafe community. You're welcome to join us over there. If you are live watching us on YouTube, please let us know if you have similar stories or if you have like questions. But it all begins with being open for it. So I think that's really clear. Like, I'm open and ready to connect with my loving guides. So there's this intention. You have your free will that shuts them down often. If we're afraid of seeing into the spirit world, that's our free will saying, nope, that's outside my comfort zone. No, thank you. And then there's, oftentimes we're trained to go, no, thank you. I'm not open to this. As Reiki practitioners, we might be trained to not be open to it. And there's other Reiki teachers who are like, notice if there's any spirit guides in the room with you. So it's just like a huge spectrum on what is possible in your Reiki training and what lineage you come from. And so when I was trained way back in 2002, one of the first things my Reiki teacher asked me was, close your eyes, envision the energetic of the space, and notice who you see here with us. And I was able to open and perceive right away, right? And so part of it was this, I didn't have any expectations. And when we don't have any expectations of what's supposed to show up, you can just perceive. And so when I was training my level 1, I was being mentored in a birth center and then asking, where is the spirit baby in the room? Energetically tune into where they are at, and if they need support in coming and being birthed into the human world. So I got really unique training that most practitioners wouldn't have access to. And that's why after many years of practicing, I developed the Shamanic Reiki practitioner training. So I had a step-by-step, easy to follow method process to help my students come to the same opening and awareness, right? Yeah. So I love that. I'm trying to think if I have any other really good examples of how this started for me. The one that comes to mind is Mouse again. Mouse is like squeaking in my ear. He's like, talk about me. So my very first Reiki client that I saw regularly, I didn't have a studio yet. I didn't have a brick and mortar business per se yet. But I was open to go to people's houses to do Reiki treatments in their home. I didn't let people in my home. I would go to their home. And that was, it was usually people who were on hospice or had health conditions that didn't allow them to have ease of access to leave their home. And so I had win a free Reiki session and an auction, and this woman won it. And she was actually a Reiki level 2, but she had a brain tumor and she was in the process of dying. And I was invited into their home. I was welcomed as part of the family because I ended up doing sessions for her for 3 years. And Mouse was always there. Mouse was always there with me. And at first I didn't know if he was one of my power animals or if he was a healer spirit animal. And it took me a while to build that relationship. But after him showing up time and time again for this specific client, I was always in awe. And I was always in a state of gratitude because I could feel him come in. I could hear his little squeak. And then he would show me where she needed Reiki on the body. So she had a brain tumor. And so oftentimes I was having my hands on her head for a good portion of the session, but I could see mouse go into the skull. Usually like he would go through the mouth or go through the ears or go through the nose. Like he would find an opening to go in. And then I could just see him nibbling away at the tumor. And as he would swallow it, it would go through his body and he would defecate. And then that was like a healing paste. I was like, you're clever little mouse. I don't know what you're doing in there, but thank you, thank you, thank you. And so he would show me these visuals. And so that's what, when you can follow the animal, when you can follow your guide and watch them, they're revealing a story to you. And so that's the journey part. It's where you're, wait, how do we know this isn't just my crazy imagination? Because when you're in the state of Reiki, when you're in the state of alignment, when you're open, the communication with spirit is going to come through your imagination. And that's how spirit is speaking to you, right? And so, yeah, I'm having this visual of mouse going into the body, eating away the tumor, defecating, taking the paste and like sealing it and healing it and all of these things. And then I could just go like, thank you, thank you, thank you. Like I'm here doing my Reiki and I'm watching this all happen in my mind's eye and knowing that it is so, it is done now, like it's healing now. And so he would come back every week. Now, this woman, she was on hospice when I, about 6 months after I started with her, but she was given, you know, to get on hospice, you have to have a 6-month window of life left in the perspective of doctors, right? Now, I was caring for her for 3 years, every week for 3 years, for the most part. Sometimes twice a week, sometimes we'd take breaks, but overall, I was there for 3 years and she was off and on hospice, off and on for 3 years because she was healing. Her body was healing. And she was able to experience more life with these shamanic Reiki sessions. And so that's just one story that I love because Mouse was so profound in the healing work in those days. And that was like my first collaborator, if you will, who came really often. And so when he shows up now, I'm like, okay, we're eating away at things. We're doing little minute work, not big pulling off, but we're just doing really delicate healing work. So another way to kind of put it in perspective, like I was giving my daughter Reiki after she got a sunburn in the summer. And every night we post angels. So we post angels to your left and to your right, in front of you and behind you, above you and below you. May the angels guide you and protect you and keep you safe and healthy. So this is another part of like, if you have, it's calling in what you want. So part of our nightly intention is for her to envision angels all around her to feel safe. So my daughter has anxiety. So that's like her nighttime routine. We post the angels. We've done this for years. We post the angels, we sing songs. Then she calls in our power animals. Now she knows who her power animals are. She sees them, my little mini me, right? And that night of her sunburn, I was like, is there anyone else we should call on to help heal for your sunburns? Because she was really uncomfortable and she was in a bit of pain. And I was like, how about Mouse? Because I saw a mouse scurrying in and she's like, yeah, what can Mouse do? And so I told her how he could help soothe all of her burns on her body. And then we finished out her nighttime routine. So we called in our power animals. I called in the spirit of dreams. And then she does her nightly affirmations. And then I tuck her in. Literally, you guys, she didn't have a sunburn in the morning. I got the same sunburn and I was still hurting. And she's like, Mom, why didn't you call in Mouse? Like, she's such a good little teacher, right? And so when Mouse comes, I know what kind of work needs to be done, whether it's for me, for my clients, for my family members. That relationship is solid so that whenever he shows up, I know what type of work is to be done during that session. Does that make sense? So you'll have this opportunity when you start opening to your guides and opening to the work that they can do, by the familiarity. Like they will come again and again. If Michael shows up or Archangel Uriel shows up, I'm going to be doing a different kind of session. If let's say I have a spirit guide who's very much a Buddhist monk type energy, when he comes, it's a different kind of session. I know I'm there to be quiet and just be still, and that's it. Oftentimes he'll come when my mind is overactive and I'm in my anxiety spinning out. He'll be there. He'll often be there when he's teaching me traditional Reiki techniques, right? So when I was starting my Reiki practice, I would go, because I didn't have a teacher to lean on. When I moved to Montana, there wasn't anybody here, and the internet really wasn't a thing yet. And so, I mean, it was a thing, but it wasn't really accessible. Let's put it that way. So I started my practice. And I'm like, how old is my son? My son is 15 years, 16. Oh my God, he's almost 17 years old. So about 15 years ago, I was doing my practice around 15 years ago is when I really started doing my work. And instead of trying to find a book or a teacher when I was in a very small rural town, many of you guys can relate to that. Like if you don't live in a city, if you don't have the resources, this was my answer. I took my shamanic training, and then I would meet with my Reiki guides. I would meet with my guides, teach me Reiki, teach me how to still my mind, body, and spirit so I can be open and ready to receive healing. Teach me how to be a better Reiki practitioner. Teach me how to be a better teacher. Teach me how to be a better mother. Teach me how to be a better wife. Teach me what do I need to know now? How can I help heal myself? And so these are really supportive questions that when you are starting to have those conversations, your mind, like you don't need an external resource anymore. All of the answers are within you, which is why I absolutely love this work, is because it no longer will depend on if you have a teacher or a space, or like to ask questions, and oftentimes by the end of the shamanic Reiki practitioner training, someone will ask me a question. I go, have you done a shamanic journey on that question yet? I recommend that you do that. And then we'll come back and we'll talk about it, right? Because I want my students to get very comfortable shamanic journeying on their own and self-resourcing their answers, because that's always going to be your best resource. If you have the answers within, if you can connect with the divine, if you can connect with the earth, all of the answers are within you, right? And so that is the epitome of the program, is that it's all here. It's all within you. And you have a team. And if we can have access to our team, then your practice just expands energetically, expands physically, expands emotionally, because you have more capacity to do this healing work in a quick and fast way, because they'll be like, you need to move down to our knee, like go over here. So and depending on which kind of journey you do, you'll learn more and more guides. So for example, in the program, we'll do a shamanic journey to your loving ancestor. Well, my loving ancestor was genetically, she is my ancestor. She was in the Oklahoma land rush, and she was a medicine woman. She was a midwife and an herbalist and a seamstress, and she came out to Oklahoma on her own. She was single when she did the land rush, which is crazy. Like I can look her up and see her, but then I was doing a journey to her, and she was able to give me this scene of what life was like then, where it was so much slower. Like 300 years ago, life was so much slower, where it felt like, I had time to harvest, and I had time to craft, and I had time to sit with a mother who was in labor, right? And so it made sense to me why my Reiki journey and my healing journey really started as me and the training to become a midwife. Like, it was familiar. Like, everyone was always surprised when I worked with mamas because it felt so natural. Well, yeah, it was natural because I had ancestors that helped me. I had a spirit guide who helped me. My birthing spirit guide was this beautiful African woman who was eternally pregnant. And so she was there always giving me my mama advice. But how cool is that I could tune in to these guides, these helpers, to help myself and whoever was open to receive the information. So it's very cool. So even with my loving ancestor, she started asking me questions. Like, I was her guide, because back then they didn't have all the answers to preeclampsia and, birth complications. And so I could step into a space of, like, she was asking me, what do I do if there's a placenta previa, meaning the placenta is covering the exit route? I go, oh no, back then there was nothing. Those mamas and babies died. And this is what we do now, but there's no way to do that safely in your time. And I'm getting goosebumps because I'm able to support, because time doesn't exist, you guys. We have to remember time is an illusion. All of these lifetimes, all the times are happening now. And so you get to come into a space of, once you recognize that, once you realize that, you have access to every lifetime, every past, every future lifetime that is yours, that your essence is in. You have access to that power. We get really deep into that in our advanced shamanic Reiki practitioner training. Oftentimes our graduates enter into that program. So I guess my point is that the opportunity is limitless of how much you can utilize shamanic journey, connecting with your guides, connecting with your power, your spirit team, and opening your clairvoyance. The journey doesn't end. I still learn things all the time, and I love it. And you can too. So if you're interested in learning more, we have the Shamanic Reiki practitioner training starting September 17th. We are open for early bird enrollment, which means that the price is discounted right now. And it is, it's a 6-month program. We do a lot of self-healing work in the process. We really want everyone to not only learn the material, not only learn how to shamanic journey and understand cord cutting and understand intrusive object removals and all of those things, but we want to also help you embody the practice. So everything that you learn, whether it's chakra spinning or how to journey, everything you're doing for yourself, we really come to the place of, we are going to learn, embody, facilitate. So we practice on other students. At the end of the program, we are shamanic journeying for other students. We're cord cutting for other students. We're doing chakra spins for other students. We're doing all of the things that we learn to our co-students, so that you feel really ready to facilitate on your own and grow your business with shamanic tools within them as part of the program. So it goes learn, embody, facilitate, and then we prosper. So having a return on investment is really important to us here at the Reiki Cafe University. So when we get to the second half of the program, we start integrating business coaching calls as well. There's lots of different kinds of calls that we offer within the program. We offer shamanic training calls. We offer coaching calls. So as you're doing your own personal healing work, things will come up. You have support available. You have the practicum calls where you're practicing on one another. And we have the business coaching calls and whatever other calls. Like if there's a bunch of students that are like, we want more training on this topic, let's say it's sound healing, we'll offer that. So we want to just make sure that it's blending in with our content. And if I can't teach it, we have Izzy and Chantel on the team to teach this with me. And then if our team can't teach it, we'll find a teacher from outside. So I'm really hoping to get a couple guest speakers this time around, and I'm really excited to offer some higher advanced teachings in the program. And it's really life transformative. So if you haven't heard any of our testimonials yet from our students, you can find them on our Facebook page, Reiki Cafe University, our Facebook group, Reiki Cafe Community. You can go over to our podcast. We have lots of students that have shared their stories, their healing experiences, and we would love, love, love for you to join the program. So right now we're open for early bird. And if you go over to the website, you can find the application and a link to book a call with myself or Izzy. And that way we can chat about any of your questions, payment plans, all of the things. So with that, thank you guys so much for coming. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out directly to me. I would love to chat with you. Feel free to send me a DM over on Facebook, and I will see you soon. Thanks very much for coming, taking the morning with me, enjoying our coffee, and I will see you next time. Thanks, everyone. Take care.